Hi. Hi everybody. My name is Artur Zielinski from Hitachi Solutions, calling you from London, UK. I don't really have a slide on myself. Don't want to really talk about myself, but all I'd say is that I've been in Dynamics sphere for over a decade now. The topic of today's conversation, however, is to do with chatbots and conversational design. So I hope you will find this useful. Before we move over, I'm just going to put this slide up. I'm sure you're aware by now, but there are prizes to be won, and the way to be in the running for those is to join the virtual bar and put in the answer the form or respond to the form, as well as I think you can use this link here to register, etc. But yeah, you will need to visit the virtual bar and be present at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. for me, which I will be there to see how the raffle turns out. So this is it. I don't really have slides. As I said, I'm not really a PowerPoint kind of guy. I've done this session a few times now, and every time I've run it, it was pretty confusing if I started with PowerPoint. So this time I will try to stick to the product and actually explain how this approach can work and hopefully there will be some questions. So before we start, let's just cover some basics for those of you who are confused by the word chatbot or conversational design. So chatbots are virtual agents, or basically applications which pretend to be human in quotation marks. They don't pretend to be human, but they allow the user to use a lot easier interface to interact with the computer, or in this case with Dynamics 365. So instead of clicking through an application, you can go on Teams, for example, and just ask a question or put a command and the chatbot will do something. So the chatbot that I will be presenting to you is called CRM Bot Community. It's our free community product that we are basically distributing to the CRM or Dynamics community using our proprietary IP, which is called CRM Bot. Now, couple of things. First is, before we start, I'm gonna just to put this link in a chat later on. There are some documentation which explains exactly what it does and how to install it and how to make use of it. I've got some really quite exciting news here, is that we're in a process of getting certified on Power Automate connector base, which means within the next 7 to 10 working days, everybody will be able to just find our solution on Power Automate. And as I said, this is totally free and open to the community. So whatever you see here now is something that in a week's time or 2 weeks time max, you will be able to install on your own environment and have a play with. So what is it? The community bot. It's essentially what we built is a very, very basic application that allows you to interact with a couple of entities: accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, nodes, products. There is actually, if I scroll down, there's also some other entities that we support, which is forecasts, quotes, orders. I'm not gonna talk about all of them, but here is a list. Essentially, most of the entities that you can encounter in Dynamics, we support. When I say we support it or the product supports it, what do I mean by that? I mean that you can actually build in Power Automate fulfillment patterns, and I will show you a couple in a second, that allow your users using conversational design in Microsoft Teams to, for example, go and qualify a quote or find out how much this product costs, or get information about the activities. So the example I have here, and I have few examples, I'll try not to ramble too much, I promise, is I've prepared a small presentation that focuses around activity management and a field salesperson. So I know it's COVID, we don't go out, etc., but certain businesses still go on B2B meetings on site to the customer premises, and obviously after the whole COVID pandemic ends, we will all start going on site. And when we're traveling, we may not like to use the Microsoft mobile apps. I find them okay, but some other companies will be maybe more reluctant, and certainly everybody is using Teams. So the logic behind this approach is that instead of asking your salespeople, maybe thousands of them, to go log into Dynamics to, for example, find out if they have any appointments for today, or update some notes or create a task, they can just do it on Teams. So the way it starts is that you can just say hi to the bot and it will respond. We actually also support a pattern where every morning you literally get a welcome message saying, hi Artur, good morning, happy Friday or happy Saturday. And here are the activities that you've got that are due now. So this is a nice way to, for example, allow a salesperson to know what are his appointments for today. We've also built this integration with Outlook. I don't really have any appointments for today, but if I had, they would be appear here. Some of the other commands that this product supports. So what we can do is we can simply say, show me my accounts. And as I said, you can do it in Dynamics pretty quickly, but if you're on Teams, it's quicker and for some organization easier to literally allow people to just show me my accounts. And then from here, we can navigate to some of them. You will notice that I'm using the out-of-the-box sample data that Microsoft gives you when you install the D365. What you can also do is you can be specific. So you can go, so for example, search accounts Coho, and this will actually search for every account that contains the name Coho. And you can actually customize this search query. So you could do search accounts with a turnover over 1 million or search accounts with no activity over last week. I'll show you later how you can adapt this chatbot to do pretty much whatever you want it to do in terms of searching and querying data. There are some limitations for those of you who are more technically sort of skilled. We're using adaptive cards, as you'd probably noticed by now, for a lot of this stuff, and adaptive cards has some limitations. One of them is that you can only have 6 actions on a card. These things we basically treat as actions. I know we say they're cards, they're actions. So that means that your searching has to be pretty specific. You cannot return like 100 results. But on the other hand, it's extremely quick because of that. So what else can you do? So I'll show you maybe before. No, actually, let's do it now. So I'm just going to open Coho Winery. This is the account I will be using throughout the session. And this takes a little while. Sorry, it's just, yeah, it's a little slow because of Bing Map Connector. So I'm just going to actually navigate to a different button, come back. But basically, the experience you see here on the screen is well, this is exactly how I've styled it because of my own sort of imagination. You can adapt this to be whatever you want. And I kid you not, this literally can be changed however you want. It's currently using these fields because I have these fields populated, but it can be using totally different fields. We can also show activities. We don't have any. We'll get some in a second. Cool things you can do is you can add notes and tasks here. You can change state and you can look for related data. So for example, if I wanted to look at any contacts that I have with this account, I can just use this. This is, pretty much, I mean, I don't necessarily find this too useful, but for the completeness sake, I wanted to show you the whole experience. What is really nice is if I show you this, I mean, let's pretend I'm on my mobile, right? Because I wanted to show you on a mobile, but my remote sort of sharing software collapsed this morning. So if I click this, you will notice that this is a telephone link. So I don't have any telephone provider on my laptop, but if it was on my mobile, you could just literally ring the guy. If you click here, you will open a Bing Map direction. If you click here, it will take you to actually, that takes you to the address. You can go to a website. So it's basically trying to be interactive. What you can also do, you can literally press on the link and that will take you to the record in CRM. So you are able to navigate in and out between the two systems. Cool. So let me then show you some other things we can do with this. So we can add notes, as I said. So it's pretty standard. You can say, I don't know, I'm gonna be basically maybe meeting summary. Quite interested. It's ABC. I don't know what ABC is. I just don't have any imagination today. And actually, I can turn it into a task. So I can say, actually, you know what, needs ABC. Needs samples done next week, like that. Now I can submit that. So I'm actually now, hopefully it will go through. Just wait. Refresh the timeline. Yep, you will see that I've basically created a task with this title, and this task will now basically appear in the list of tasks against this account. Another thing that happened, which is something I wanted to show you a little bit later on, but actually it's happened now, is I've enabled a proactive messaging on a chatbot, which means that every time you create a task on my user in this system, I mean, I can create it, but somebody else can create it too. So imagine a situation where you have people which assign tasks to other people. So say, chase up today, quote is due by 5 p.m. Something like that. I'm gonna save and close this. In about, I mean, it depends. Sometimes it's 10 seconds, sometimes it's half a minute. It really depends. It's Power Automate we're talking about here. So the performance is what it is, but it doesn't need to be real time. Essentially what this will do is it will update this task in my Teams. Just actually have a look here. Just briefly if the flow has run. Oh, actually I had a failure. Never mind. I think it's because I forgot to put, let me just delete that and add the new one. I think it's because I forgot to put a description. Let's just see. Oh, no, it's failing. Never mind. Oh, of course. Sorry, I'm being stupid. Sorry, I know what that is. It's not a description. This doesn't need a description. What it needs is a due date. That's what I'm missing. So I need to put a specific due date. And then after I have a due date, this flow should now run. Yep, and it succeeded. And you see that we've got basically a message saying somebody assigned you a new record, check it out. And from here, I can literally go to my parent account in this question and find out what is this task that I need to do. But I can also, for example, reschedule this task for some other day. So I'm going to actually push it until next Friday. And obviously change state. So let's say that actually, you know what, we're not going to do it. We're going to cancel this task. And so these are just, as I say, just some very, very basic examples. But the bottom line is that you see that this task is now cancelled in Dynamics. So I suppose that this was probably a lot of information to take in. But I don't know. Would we? A couple of things I suppose that I forgot to say at the beginning. So as I think I mentioned briefly, this is basically using our own proprietary connector IP, which will be available in Power Automate in about a week's time. But what that means is that this doesn't really allow you to customize the entities that we're talking about. And there are some very generic actions that we recognize. So basically what the chatbot needs is something we call intent. And intent is like a command. So if you're searching for something, or you're showing something, or you're editing something, or you're adding something, or removing something, these are the kind of intents. And these things are hard coded within a chatbot. What I mean by that is that you cannot use this product to build your own very elaborate chatbot that does something very, very specific that we've not covered in our community product. But what you can absolutely do, as I've mentioned, is change how it looks and change what sort of data you collect and how it appears. And you do that by using something called adaptive cards. I'm not sure how many of you have played with adaptive cards. It's a Microsoft leading sort of Microsoft framework for UX design, especially when it comes to Teams. You will notice that when you get to adaptivecards.io and you look at Designer, you get some examples that Microsoft comes up with. And this is absolutely the future when it comes to conversational design, because it allows you to put that very controlled form experience without really making it onerous and long-winded form. The whole thing doesn't need to be a form, but sometimes you just need to have more functionality than simple text. Okay, so I'm going to just very briefly now show you what this sort of experience looks like from the point of view of just editing one of those flows. Oh, actually, sorry for jumping around. Before we do that, let me just show you something else. So I'm going to actually search for Coho again and show you actually the conversational part, because you probably noticed that in the 15 minutes we spent, there wasn't really a lot of typing or a lot of conversation going on. So there are ways we can make it more conversational. What we've done is given you an ability that when you're looking at the account, you can simply say, something like that. You have to include the name of the action, so whether it's a call or make a task or send an email or schedule an appointment. You have to say when, what day, what time, and then what do you want to do. After you provide all this information, you basically will get an action. In this case, it's a call because you said call, so it's a phone call. And that phone call is now scheduled in a system against this account. Which, you know, again, for a use case when you're just leaving a customer site, you just had a meeting or you're literally on Teams talking to the guy and you want to quickly record that, you know what, we're probably going to need to have a follow-up call in 2 or 3 days to find out more. It's really, really quick. And you see that this is now due in a couple of days. I think I've said tomorrow, so that's due tomorrow at 8 a.m. Obviously from here, as I said, you could just, you know, reschedule or change state. I think I've shown you this already. So there is conversational elements. Another thing that we've built that I thought it would be quite cool to show you is support for emojis. This is another thing that sort of with chatbots, it's a lot. It's not something, for example, virtual agents will offer you, but the chatbots should be able to respond to user feelings. And in Teams, quite a lot of people use these icons. So what we've basically provided is a support and a pattern that allows us to essentially respond to these sort of things. It doesn't really offer tremendous value, but I think it's just nice that, you know, a user, when they respond to something, you know, they're probably not going to say, whoa, that's amazing, chatbot, but they may just put a heart button and we can actually track those, or we can maybe have a different response type when somebody is angry and maybe you want to escalate it, or maybe you should point them to an instruction manual. Right, so that was 17 minutes spent on a product. I will just mention that there is a comprehensive help built in within the chatbot itself, so you can actually get your information about searching, what types of records, activities directly without leaving the chatbot. You can also view the video, which is included in our docs page, and this docs page is active now. But what I will say is that our connector is about to become an official premium Microsoft connector, which means that this process will be a lot more straightforward in about a week's time. So that's 20 minutes spent on the front end. Before we move on to the back end, which I'm sure some of you who are more technical are interested, how do you actually build this stuff? Are there any questions or any comments or feedback from anybody? I'll wait for a minute to just see, maybe you can collect your thoughts if there is anybody who wants to ask anything at this stage. Okay, yeah, good question. So it can be used for custom entities, but as I said, the community version or the community edition supports out-of-the-box entities, and as well as all the premium entities like field service ones or invoices or orders. If you would like this to be adapted fully to your custom organization, all the details are on the docs page, where you can basically go through the process of setting your own agent. This is literally just a community agent. That's why we don't allow you to expand on a list of entities or change some of those commands like searching or showing, but of course you can absolutely have your own version of this, which is totally unique and bespoke to your organization or project. That's the whole point. We're basically giving the community edition for people to become aware of how this stuff can work, and hopefully this will result in some nice projects. Okay, thank you, but thank you, that's a very good question. I think I've just noticed that Diane joined. Hi, Diane. I wonder if it's Diane.
Hey, sorry, I was muted.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good, great to see you here. Well, you've seen, I think, some of it. Sorry, guys. Diane, she will be speaking in a few moments. I think. Is it the next hour?
I'm actually going to be on 1 o'clock. Sorry, but I have
to. In a few hours, please attend her session. She's is gonna absolutely rock, as always. So yeah, thanks. But thank you for your question. Are there any other questions before we move over to fulfillment? No? Great. Okay. So what I will do is I will briefly explain how it works first of all, and then I will basically show you an example. So as I said, the chatbot has two parts, publication and fulfillment. Publication is on our side. You don't really have a control or access to it because it's a community edition, which is fine. So essentially it is what it is. And that really takes care of what entities you can talk to or what interactions you can have. Now, fulfillment is essentially what happens when a chatbot recognizes a command. So essentially, if I say hi, the bit that recognizes what hi means and what sort of intent is it, we call it welcome intent in chatbot design. That's on us. You don't need to worry about that. We will cover most of the basic scenarios. Now, this bit, this response is on you, so you can customize it. So I hope this makes sense, and I'm going to show you now exactly what happens when a user says hi to our chatbot. So you see, first of all, is that the entire product solution is built using Power Automate from a fulfillment point of view. And you see we've got basically a bunch of flows, and hopefully you recognize some of those names because these are the type of things I've been showing you today. So stuff like adding an activity, adding a node, adding a note, changing state, sending proactive messages because somebody assigned a task to you, reactions, searching, showing, etc. And you see that I avoid using specific terms like show an account or show contact. What you want to do is keep it generic. So you have show an entity, and then within that flow, you will basically branch out depending on what type of entity it is. It just saves time. But let me just show you welcome intent. So welcome intent, as I said, it's something that is relatively straightforward, hopefully. I mean, this, I really don't know if this was a proper face-to-face conference, which I must admit I do miss. I would just now ask you what's your technical proficiency, because this may be very simple to some of you or very complicated depending on your skill set. But to be honest, it works out of the box. So if you don't want to change it, you don't have to. But basically the concept is as follows. First of all, we start with the trigger. Our trigger is always basically you pick which intent out of the list of those intents you want to respond to. So we're going to pick default welcome intent. You then pick what platform. In our case, we're going to leave it as unspecified, or we could swap it to Skype. We then have a bunch of essentially variables that I'm introducing. So I'm doing stuff like, I'm putting a greeting variable. I'm not going to explain each action. I'm also grabbing a time, which will be important because essentially this bit, good afternoon, you would not believe how hard it is. Well, you're going to believe in a second because I'll show you. But this sort of stuff is so complicated in Power Automate, it's unclear, it's unreal. So in order for us to basically be able to say good afternoon and happy Saturday, I've got a whole bunch of things that I need to contain. So I need to find the hour in the UTC time. I need to then do a bunch of commands that look like this. So I suggest don't touch it if you don't know what you're doing. But basically, this is finding out what day of the week it is. I'm then doing the same with an hour. And then I'm basically, I think somewhere down the line, I don't remember even where, but I'm basically grabbing the good morning, afternoon, evening sort of thing. What we then do, and this is important stuff, another benefit of using a chatbot, because some of you may wonder now, you know what, I'm not really bothered. Why is the chatbot better than anything else? So one of the reasons why it's so cool to use chatbots in your B2C or B2B applications is because of authentication. So what this command now does, it's based on our parameter called user ID, which on Teams is your Azure Active Directory. So every time you talk on Teams, you're using your internal Azure Active Directory ID, which is unique to you worldwide and your organization. So we know this because you're talking to the chatbot. So the chatbot knows who you are on CRM without any need for any passwords whatsoever. And this will be so secure as you going to Dynamics yourself. So there is no need for another interface or another secondary form of authentication. If I have time, and it looks like I may, I will show you how this can be adapted to other platforms as well. So for example, for Messenger or for voice. But this is really cool. So basically what we're doing here, we're literally setting the owner to the user. It's a loop in inverted commas because you'll notice that I'm just doing a count of 1 in my action. So anyway, I will skip through, because I've got a lot of conditions basically finding out what time it is. That doesn't really do anything interesting. What this thing does here, we're basically just searching for activities that belong to this user. And you see how easy it is to adapt that. So if you wanted to change this to be showing not activities, but show maybe opportunities or show quotes or show whatever, yeah, you can just change the fetch and change the entity name and you're done. Obviously, it's not as simple as that because you then have to adapt the card, but in terms of getting the data, it's fully within your remit. So then for each found result, I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I'm even like finding the right icon for the activity and then appending it to a variable again, and then I'm doing some deletions. Let's not worry about that. This is the bit I wanted to show you. So this is building adaptive cards. Now, we've provided a framework or a template that will work with Adaptive Card Designer. This looks very nasty and scary. So what I like to do is I usually just copy this stuff. And I'm going to paste this into my adapter. Oh, sorry, it doesn't. Oh yeah, I think I'm in the wrong version. I think they've changed some stuff. Let me just actually, can I go into, sorry. First of all, Teams. There seems to be some errors. Oh yeah, because this stuff doesn't work, yeah. Yeah, so you'll see now that this basically now have a, how do I put this? I have a very generic card. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna just do one more thing just to make it a little bit easier to understand. Sorry, how do I make this disappear? Go away, thank you. So I'm going to go into my flow and I'm going to actually look at the last run result. What I want to do is whenever I play around with the editor, I want to use real data rather than using any templated data, because that payload that you see here actually contains real values. So if I paste this into here, it will actually appear exactly like your result in Teams. So in terms of changing this stuff, how this stuff looks, you can just make changes directly here. You can add new text blocks, you can add media, images, you can ask for more inputs and outputs. But obviously, if I wanted to tell you or give you a training session on adaptive cards, we'd be here till the evening, and then other speakers would be upset while we're still talking about this. So I'm gonna stop here, but basically you can edit how this thing looks yourself. And all you then have to do after you finish with it, you copy this back into your flow, and that's it. Okay. So, and after you build this card, you just have another connector from us, which allows you to send your response. And that it's got some additional components, but basically, if I go back into editing and show you this action in sending response, we basically just put in the adaptive card that we've created here into our fulfillment messages, and we're sending it. We need to pass some parameters from the trigger, but that's pretty much it. And then your interesting bit here is that after all of that is done, you'll notice that I've got another action at the bottom, which allows you to build a totally different message and a totally different response. And that's what I said, is if you keep your fulfillment generic, you don't need, for example, with virtual agents, you have to build those sort of branches that really get really complicated. With this, you can have one flow that, you know, goes and does one bit, but if that bit didn't work out, so in this case, basically, if we didn't manage to find any results for you, we will just basically say generic, hi, welcome to the chatbot. And this will happen. This will trigger for the first time you install this product for yourself. So this fulfillment will trigger for you then. Right. So, I mean, I can spend a little bit more on fulfillment. I will just show you one more thing on the fulfillment in terms of other types of actions that the product will support. So I've mentioned and I've shown you adaptive cards. We've got standard cards, which are slightly different. We've got media, ability to send quick replies, text responses, proactive messages. So that's that unique flow, which doesn't start with somebody saying something. That is so powerful when you consider B2B scenarios where I can trigger a message to a user based on anything. I know Teams support that out of the box with the Teams connector, but the added ability here is that then the user can have a proper conversation with the chatbot and say, you know, oh, I'm gonna disqualify that or cancel this or book this or do something else. So it's not just one-way street. You can actually respond and have an interaction. And finally, sending a response. In terms of triggers, all we have is a single trigger, which is when intent is detected. So I don't know if this was as clear as mud, but are there any questions about the fulfillment or anything else or anything you've seen? And sorry for going a million miles an hour. It's difficult for me on the virtual. Have you built your own Power Automate? Are you using any predefined template? No, this is so. I mean, I think I know what the question, what you mean by that. So all of these flows are built using 90% of it is using out of the box Power Automate connectors. So if I open, for example, show related entity, and you look at that, you will see that with the exception of these connectors that you see here with our icon of CRM bot, everything else is out of the box. And that's the beauty of this approach, is that instead of trying to learn a new interface, you can just use what you know using Power Automate to build all the complicated business logic connected to any business systems, and then just use our connectors to build your response. So to answer your question, if I hope I understood the question right, yes, there are some connectors that we've built and we're in a process of getting those certified. We've passed all the checks. It will be done within the next 7 to 10 working days. I was really trying to aim that I get this live for this session, which would be tremendous, but unfortunately at the moment they're only available in preview environment. So if you have access to preview environments, you can go to the well, you can set up your own preview environment. It just has to be in US Central. And in here, if you go and create a new flow and you type CRM bot, we will actually appear. So we're yeah, as I say, we're 7 days away from being out there, and for you to have a really easy route to install it. But that, yeah, I hope that answered your question. Cool, great. Anybody else has any questions? If you don't, I'll just start showing you different chatbots because I've got a lot of them. So yeah, you might as well ask your question if you have one. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll actually just put some videos up. These are just very short demonstrations of additional capabilities that you can look into. I'm gonna just mute this actually and wait for this to actually have a proper, how do I mute this? It's here. Sorry, I'm just need this to get to a better quality. How long does that take? It's usually quite quick, isn't it? For YouTube. That's Twitter. Why would Twitter downgrade my video so much? Oh, I think it's a little bit better. It's annoying music. No, it's not. It's not better at all. Hopefully it will get better in a second, then I can rewind back. Oh, come on. Sorry. I think it just doesn't like the fact that my screen is so big, but basically if I don't have anything in between, that's annoying bit. Okay, well, that's not gonna work. This one's not gonna work, but we've got a few more. So an example of a different, totally different chatbot is something I've demonstrated, I think, 10 months ago. So this is a very short demonstration of a B2C car parking chatbot. So imagine that you're arriving at a car park and you want to pay for your car parking, but machine is broken or it doesn't work, and the car park company actually thought through, you know what, we're going to actually go forward and help the customer. So instead of asking you to download an app and then set up and register and add your payment card and do all that annoying stuff, they've built a chatbot on Messenger that does this. So using this approach, just again mute the music, you'll notice that we can basically get started, and on Messenger we can provide mobile number. This will essentially send us a text message now that this guy will get in a second. Yeah, he's getting a security code. He can type this code, so this is the additional level of security I said. Sometimes it's necessary. Okay, so the security has passed. You're in. We will verify you again in 30 days, etc. So now what you can do is you can send a picture of your car, and we've connected the Power Automate AI builder basically to it, and basically run a model that analyzes the number plates of the car just to demonstrate the AI capability of this. So this will now basically say that you've put a car with this plate registration number, and this is an example of something that you can quite easily use to help the user with his journey, so he doesn't actually have to fill out a boring form. He can just send you a picture of a car and that's it. You could also obviously analyze what make of a car it is, etc. Then we get this messenger experience, which allows you to park for various hours or change your car, etc. But I think here we're just going to say park for 2 hours, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, that was one example. Another one which I quite like, I mean, this is probably my favorite of those simple chatbot examples that I've built over the years, is this one. So this must be, and I'm sorry, I tend to sometimes exaggerate, but this must be, I guarantee you, the fastest way if for you to report a problem to your council. So let's imagine you're walking down the street and you notice that there is a street light that's damaged, or there is a graffiti on the wall or something like that. And instead of going to a council's website and logging to your account and then going through a form, what if your housing company or your chatbot could actually do this? So you start the process. Because we know who you are on Messenger, we know straight away who you are, you don't need to log in. What you then can do, you can just send a picture that you've literally walking by this incident. So you've taken a picture, you send this picture, and then based on this picture, we recognize, using the similar AI model, we recognize what type of a problem it is. So that's logged in as a case, and then you send your location. And this was in Florida. So we send your location, and that actually creates a case in CRM. So on the basis of 30 seconds and two bits of information that we've asked you, which is the type of a case or a photo of an incident and your location, we've got all we need in order to log process a case. So yeah, I mean, so that's pretty much the gist. That hopefully gives you some ideas about how else this sort of product can be adapted. And as I said, with the community edition, that's gonna hit general capability within next few days. And hopefully some of you will be kind enough to use the free version and see if you can adapt this to your needs. And yeah, I don't know if you have any other questions or any questions at all, but that's pretty much all I have for today. So if not, I can just give you some time back.